Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I am Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst at friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Joining me on this episode is Dave McDonald. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Yeah, just trying to recover from last week. A lot of injuries in my main event. Hopefully they missed you a bit, but yeah, it's been a rough week in that league, but doing well in some other leagues. So that's how the middle of the year goes sometimes.
Who'd you have go down?
So we had Yordan Alvarez, Jake Fraley, and Mitch Haniger all go on the IL all at the same time. So we were taking some zeros.
Well, Fraley isn't Fraley back now?
Well, he is. He came back on Sunday, but all last week we were, so we were already short on outfielders to begin with. And then, all that happened. We lost someone else too. I forget, but it wasn't an outfielder. But yeah, it's just it's been rough going in the main. We were all the way up to 50th overall, and then we just tumbled after that. So yeah, hopefully we can get back up in there. We got Jordan Hicks going, so now we're up to 3.5 closers. So.
I'm at 4 closers in my auction league where I picked up both Jordan Hicks and Kendall Graveman to complement my David Bednar and Felix Bautista duo. So I am flush. We talked about closers last week, and now I have all of the closers. At least a large portion of them. And with Brian Jenner is in that league, and he's got 50 saves. Which is just an obscene amount, and he's like way above the rest of us in terms of saves in that league. Jeez. I think between the two of us, we have like the vast majority of closers. Because I'm taking a look at his team real quick and seeing he's got Doval, Kimbrel, Estevez. Oh, I guess he's got 50 saves from those 3 closers.
He might have had someone else that he just doesn't have anymore. It might have been like
I wonder if he maybe dropped Helsley or something like that. So
unlikely. I don't think people are dropping Helsley yet, but I think he could become a drop.
Let's see. I'm looking at his team. I can't remember what the name of it is now, unfortunately. Rotoholic. All right, so let's see.
Yeah, if you look week by week on his team, you can see who he got saves from every week.
Of course,
that's Justin's. That's just the calling tactic. Is dun dun dun.
Yeah, it automatically went to my main event team. So all of a sudden, I couldn't find the name of the team, and I was all like, "What's going on here?" So,
this is great podcasting right here. This is enthralling stuff.
So he's got 19 saves from Estevez, 19 saves from Camilo Doval, 7 saves from Craig Kimbrel, and 5 saves from Pierce Johnson.
Okay, there you go. You got 5 from Pierce.
But still, I mean, he's already got 19 from both Estevez and Doval and didn't have to pay like top tier prices. That's a pretty economical way of getting the rep.
I mean, Doval, you had to pay. He wasn't like a top 4 closer, but I think he was somewhat still up there. Like what?
I don't think he was top 10.
Yeah, I think he was. Wasn't he?
Was he?
No,
I could be wrong.
we'll figure that out another time. But I think he was not super late. Estevez though was a great buy, and he was a guy who I was really on, and then kind of hedged later, and I wish I didn't.
Yeah, he's a guy that he was kind of a fallback option for me, but I almost always got 2 guys before that. And I, like you said, I kind of wish I had gotten him a little bit more.
Yeah, he's been very solid, but he went through that period where he was, there's a big concern with him coming out of spring, and I'm forgetting what it was now.
Well, and he struggled early on. Remember with Chiata was the guy that even me, I was like, I grabbed Chiata in a couple leagues, and it looked like he's
the hell is Chiata?
Jose Chiata was the setup guy there. He got a couple saves, and all of a sudden it looked like maybe it's going to change hands, and Chiata got hurt.
was something wrong with Estevez though. So I can't remember if his velo was way down or something. There's something going on with him that everybody bumped him down.
His control was not good.
Oh, was it that he was walking everybody? Maybe that
I think so.
There was something weird going on, but I mean, every year it's the same thing. It's like fucking fade spring training statistics because every year that we take them too seriously, it ends up biting us.
Yeah, usually. You know, there's I mean, it's all confirmation bias, right? Because sometimes there's the guys that like, you know, like have huge spring trainings and are able to carry it over. Like, I mean, Kelnick is a really good example this year of a guy who, you know, started off, was great in spring training and then has been pretty great. You know, he hasn't been out of this world, but he's been pretty good considering, you know, where you were able to get him. And then there's always the Mike Moustakas or the Michael Francos of the world from years past who are like, you know, 8 or 9 spring training home runs and then they just shit the bed once the season starts.
I don't care about that stuff, but I mean, even the things like when guys' velo is down, I don't care about like home runs and stuff. Like that stuff legit does not matter. Like it didn't matter if Kelenic hit a lot of home runs or not. I think we should have just been looking at him because he's a post-hype sleeper. He was a premium top prospect with legit skills. And I think that those guys should never be forgotten because at some point they don't always have success right away in the majors, but at some point they usually figure it out to some degree. And I think that's something we should keep in mind, regardless of how they do it in spring.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about some news and then we'll, you know, be back for another episode tomorrow. So hopefully people have been enjoying the new format, kind of getting the 4 episodes a day. You know, we record them all night tonight. We'll be up late again doing that. But you guys get them. Yeah, it's gonna be a real late night tonight. So I hope Dave has got some coffee or some energy drinks lying around. Remind everybody you can reach Dave on Twitter at RunDMCD.
Add that D.
And you can reach me on Twitter at Triston Mason FWFB. You can reach Friends with Fantasy Benefits at Fantasy Benefits. And then give us a 5-star review. It really helps us out. If you give us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify, it'll get you entered in to win a free RotoWear shirt at the end of the month. We've only gotten a couple reviews. And they've both been on Spotify. So your chance of getting one of those shirts is pretty good. So get that. If you do give us a review on Spotify, make sure you send me a screenshot of it either via email or DMs. That way I make sure I've got it because it doesn't show me who reviews over on Spotify like it does on Friends or on iTunes. So let's start with Alex Cobb hits the IL with an oblique injury. Looks like you put on there that he's likely back at the end of the month. I hadn't seen that when the news broke. So that's, I guess, good news. Usually these injuries take about 4 to 6 weeks to recover from. That's, you know, pretty much a minimum stay.
Yeah, and we'll see. You know, I think they called it precautionary. I think they think like they caught it before it really did the, you know, the full damage that, you know, where the guys miss a month to a month and a half. But we'll see. You know, it could be just overly being optimistic, but it didn't seem like it from what I read. They said that they thought it was pretty insignificant, and they said that he plans to be back for the start of that series that begins on 6:30, and then that was their target date. So we'll see if that happens that way, but that is when Cobb is expected to be back.
All right. I mean, if that's the case, I think you just got to hold tight. He's been really, really good on the mound. This also could be like load management because Alex Cobb has been very injury prone over the course of his career, and they may just be trying, especially with them kind of making a run right now. They may just be trying to kind of, you know, hey, let's keep him healthy so that way we have him towards the end of the season and potentially in the playoffs as well. So
he's definitely not a 200 inning guy. He's a guy you just hope you get like 140 to 160 good innings out of.
If you get 160 innings out of Alex Cobb, you are going to be pretty fucking excited. So
yeah, exactly.
Zach Neto does hit the IL with an oblique strain. I know this is a guy that you've had on a few teams, and I literally had written up like the week before as a guy to make sure you were picking up in your leagues where available. So this is a huge bummer. This probably will be 4 to 6 weeks, which I think means he's droppable.
Well, it depends on your. Okay, so again, this isn't where they haven't come out like Alex Cobb and said, okay, like it's precautionary. You should be back after 2 weeks. but they also said that they similarly said that they don't think it's as serious. So it didn't sound like they thought it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks. I would drop him in 12s because I think that's a place where you could repick him up again and it would be no problem. And it's just, you need to keep it churning in 12s. Like you need to keep picking guys up and playing guys every week. In 15s, I'm not dropping Neto. No way. You're not going to be able to replace that level of talent. And I don't think he's going to be out 6 weeks. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, I'm not taking zeros. Like if you have other guys that you have to stash over him, I guess you have to look at each league individually. But for right now, I'm not dropping Neto in 15s.
Okay. I don't have a problem in 15s if you want to try to hold on to him, especially wait for a more concrete timetable. I also don't have a problem moving on. While I like Neto a lot, and I think he is a really interesting guy who's just starting to kind of really get going after kind of a slow start to his MLB career. 6 weeks is half of the remaining season. And so at this point, you have to do what's best for your immediate team. And sometimes that means just making the hard cut. So
6 weeks would be at the long end of that recovery time.
Sure.
I'm assuming he's more closer to be I would say 3 to 4 weeks, but we'll see. It's because he was finally getting going, it was like he was finally looking like the guy that we were hoping he'd be when he first came up. But, it takes time. He came up from AA.
Mm-hmm.
Just sucks, the timing of it.
Yep. Hunter Greene to the IL with hip discomfort. Sometimes when you're watching home run sail over your head, you have to twist weirdly, and that's where I'm assuming is the issue here. Are you holding on to Hunter Greene?
I honestly, I don't have him anywhere, so I didn't really look into this injury too much, but I'm assuming it doesn't sound overly serious as of right now, unless that hip discomfort is a hip impingement or something else that they just haven't diagnosed yet. So as of right now, I think you're holding him, but I don't really know.
Yeah, I think you should hold him. He's, we talk about at this point in the season with guys, whether or not we're holding him, it really comes down to whether or not the player has enough upside to make up for the missed time once he's back. And Hunter Greene is one of the guys that does have that kind of upside. And I don't have him anywhere just because I feel like he's too volatile for what I look for in the starting pitcher. But you can't deny, especially the strikeout upside that a guy like Hunter Greene has. So I would try to hold on to him, especially until we get a concrete timetable. But if it's anything more than 6 weeks, I'm dropping pretty much anybody at this point. Unless they're an absolute superstar. I think Yordan Alvarez is the only guy on the IL right now that is a must hold on to, moving forward.
Yeah.
So. All right, next guy on the list, Yoan Moncada to the IL with back inflammation. You probably already should have dropped Yoan Moncada, but if you were needing another reason to, this should be it. But I think the better conversation is one that you put in the notes, which is I think this just gives added security to Jake Burger to hold on to that job. And I think it's his moving forward, or at least it should be if we're going based on skills. Jake Burger has been fantastic this year. He is kind of a 3 true outcomes guy. He's going to strike out a lot, but he's also going to hit for a ton of power. And I love Burger.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago when he was kind of shifted to a part-time role, Mark Cerebro, known as Gecko, in the NFBC community, was talking about how everybody should be dropping Burger and all this stuff. And I'm like, no. I saw that tweet and I was just like, I need to retweet this and make sure that the casual or the people who are playing who don't know any better should definitely not be dropping Jake Burger, because that would be a huge mistake. It was very clear between Moncada sucking. They're playing Gavin Sheets at DH a lot. You had Eloy just came back from an injury, but he can't stay healthy. If they want him to play the field, there's no way. And then you got, Moncada sucks at third base and he can't stay healthy either. So it's there's so many paths to Jake Burger getting his playing time back that it was super obvious that this was always going to happen. He was going to get his playing time back. And it was just, wherever he's playing from here on out, third base, DH, whether they try him out at second base or first base here and there, He's gonna find his at bats. He's gonna be playing 6 out of 7 games for the rest of the season, I would say. So make sure you hold on to your Jake Burger shares.
Yeah, this is a huge bummer for me because I mean I've got Burger in a number of DCs because I was high on him kind of coming into the season as kind of a lower end third baseman, but I did have him in a couple leagues, and when he went on the IL, I dropped him and just kind of moved on to the next guy, and of course he got scooped up before I was able to pick him back up, and I need power in a number of leagues, and Jake Burger would look really, really good on those teams that are a little power deficient. And just a bummer. I like him a lot, as long as he can stay healthy. I mean, the biggest issue with him in his career has just been he's been probably one of the most snake-bitten guys, I mean, outside of like Mitch Haniger, in terms of injuries going through the minor leagues. I mean, tore his Achilles and then tore his other Achilles while he was rehabbing the first injury. And he's just had these kind of weird injuries that I don't think are indicative of him being injury prone necessarily, but just really bad luck, bad timing. So I like Jake Burger a lot. If he is somehow still available in your shallower leagues, definitely pick him up if he needs power. So
agreed.
Triston McKenzie placed on the IL with an elbow strain. This does not sound good. Sounds like it could potentially be Tommy John surgery. He was dropped, I think, in either my main or my auction. I can't remember which one. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Even though it's still like 85% rostered, in those kind of deeper formats. That being said, I think the real question to me, I mean, one, are you dropping, Triston McKenzie if you have him anywhere? And then two, how soon until we see Gavin Williams come up? Because I think that is the really interesting question.
Yeah, well, so my managerial prowess this year in Glarf, as we'll get into later, I think that how Triston McKenzie, the saga of Triston McKenzie on my Glarf team, pretty much sums it up. About a month ago, I picked him up for like $24 or something in free agency, held him for a month, waited for him to come back. He returns on a Sunday night. I didn't start him because I didn't know he was coming back that Sunday for sure. I thought maybe he might. But I was like, I don't really want his first start back anyway. So what happens? He comes back, he dominates. Okay, put him back in the lineup. Next week, he gets absolutely pummeled. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And then what happens after that? He goes to the IL with what looks like Tommy John. He's going to need Tommy John. So, that pretty much sums up my Glarf experience this year. I do think that I think it's going to lead to Tommy John, unfortunately, which sucks because I'm a Guardians fan. And I did drop him in Glarf this week. This is not an injury that is going to be any short time to come back from, even if it's not Tommy John. They might try PRP and whatnot, but I have very little confidence in anything getting him back here anytime soon and being effective. So, I would drop McKenzie. I would move on. And I actually think that they're going to bring up Gavin Williams this week. And I was watching the Guardians game a couple days ago, and Dre Knott, who is a local guy in the broadcasts, I've heard him drop several things. He's been the first guy to say it live on the broadcast several times this year on stuff. I think he was the one who mentioned when Tanner Bybee was about to come up. And supposedly he made a comment that Gavin Williams is going to come up to possibly start this Thursday. I don't know about Thursday. I think it makes a lot more sense for him to start on Tuesday because he last started in the minors on the 14th. So I don't think that they want like 8 or 9 days off between his starts. That usually does not work out well for starters. When you move them up or back, even a day, sometimes it can be bad. So I think that they're going to bring him up and start him tomorrow or maybe Wednesday. But I guess it's possible that they do whatever, have him come back on Thursday. I'll tell you why I think, because I think this team is trying to contend. Why would you bring everybody else up? Why would you bring up Logan Allen and Bo Naylor and Tanner Bybee and then stop short at Gavin Williams? Like, what would be the reasoning behind that? Like, Cal Quantrill sucked and then he got hurt. Are you going to bring up Hunter Gaddis again and just sacrifice another start? Like, I just don't know what their reasoning would be with Triston looking like he's out for probably the rest of the year. Why wouldn't you bring up Gavin Williams to start right now?
I mean, I completely agree with you. I think they absolutely should. The question is, will they? It's always hard to kind of tell what the Guardians.
Well, so that's what I'm asking you. What would be their rationale between why wouldn't they?
They're letting the Super 2 deadline pass. No, the Super 2 deadline is typically, I mean, it might have, but so the Super 2 deadline is a very fluid. It's largely based on when other prospects come up. The question becomes, have enough other prospects come up and pass like their service time requirements where it's not going to affect Gavin Williams and they get that extra year of, service time. So that being said, like usually that happens at the end of June, early July, right? So I think he probably will be up in the next week or two. And someone in the NHP NOB is saying that he believes the Super 2 already passed. It wouldn't surprise me if it has.
I thought it had. I don't know, but either way, if you're not going to be able to tell people that you're honestly trying to contend and then not bring up Gavin Williams when the exact scenario that you needed to happen to bring him up happened. You either need an injury or a trade. Well, there's an injury. So, and it's not like it's an injury where Triston's going to be back here in 2 weeks or something like that. And then you've got a log jam. No, we need someone for the rest of the season. So I just don't see, especially with how much Bybee and Allen have struggled lately. Like, why wouldn't you bring up Gavin Williams? Because you might need him to even try to contend at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, if you've already started the clock on other guys, might as well just start the clock on Gavin Williams. So, I mean, if you are in a league where you can make midweek pickups, and Gavin Williams is still out there,
Gavin Williams
I would be grabbing him right now because I think he is the biggest remaining pitcher coming up from the minor leagues this year. So,
I agree, 100%.
Eury Perez is going to stay in the rotation. So we got super bummed out last week when we talked about the fact that it sounded like Craig Mish said that it sounded like Eury Perez is going to go back down to the minors.
Remember last week I was when I told you that Trevor Rogers was not going to be coming back, right? Wasn't that what we discussed?
No, we talked about that. He had a setback, but that it was his non-pitching shoulder. And so we weren't super worried about that necessarily. And Craig Mish had said that he had, that Eury Perez was going to go down to the minors. Well, all you need to do is just keep punching Edward Cabrera in the shoulder until he's got shoulder soreness, and now you get to keep Eury Perez in the major leagues. So Cabrera goes to the IL. I dropped Edward Cabrera in I think in Barf and another league where I had him. One, because he's just awful pitcher that destroys your whip, and two, because I just don't care to, he's not a guy that I think is worth holding on to if he's going to miss a month or something like that. But this is huge for me in terms of Eury Perez, who's been fantastic this year. And I really, really can use that pitching moving forward. So yay for Eury Perez.
So I don't, Edward Cabrera's, I only own him in one DC, and I can't drop him there. So I haven't really paid much attention. I know it was a right shoulder impingement. Which would not be great, but I don't expect him to be out like the rest of the season or anything. But hadn't Edward Cabrera been doing kind of better lately, other than his last start where he got hurt?
I mean, better for him. He had 3 starts where he had a total of 6 walks or something like that.
It looks like since May 17th, he had 0 walks, 1 walk, 4 walks, then 1 walk, then 2 walks. So it looked like he had improved, and he even had that 10 strikeout outing with 1 walk, no runs against Oakland, of course. But he's the guy that you want to make sure you're starting him against some weaker offenses that strike out and don't have.
The problem is, I think the 4 walk game came against Kansas City, so you can just never trust the dude. So. To me, it's like
he still only gave up 2 runs though, so it's not like it crushed you or anything.
No, but those are the starts you need him to go out and perform well, right?
He's talk about this all the time. He's been a disappointment, no question.
Yeah, and he kills your whip. He's got a 140, 145 whip on the year. How do you roster that long term? You just can't. He just murders you in the whip department, and I honestly don't even know if he's really hurt. I wonder if this is just the Marlins playing games and going like, hey, listen, we need you to work on stuff. We're going to say you're sore instead of sending, outrighting you to the minors or something like that. And we're going to give you some time off and then let you kind of get back and get working on things.
Maybe, but I have a feeling it's probably a legit injury. The timing doesn't seem to mash up with – I mean, yes, he didn't do well in his last start, but I don't know if that might have been partially because of the injury. But, either way, Eury Perez definitely has some security for now. I mean, they're not going to let him go a ton of innings still this year. So if you are a Eury Perez owner, you do get some more outings out of him. But I'd imagine, you're probably only going to get another – month or so. I mean, they're not gonna have him pitch the rest of the season because he's not that built up yet. It's good for now. They got Johnny Cueto on a rehab assignment. I know, he sucks. I think he has like 1 strikeout and 3 starts in the minors so far. They were talking about, using him in the rotation this year. So we'll see what they decide to do. They brought up Brian Hoeing for now. So, I don't know what their plans are for Hoeing long term, if he'll be replaced by Cueto or Trevor Rogers.
I'm sure he will. Trevor Rogers.
Yeah, he had a setback, so I'm not sure what's going on with Trevor Rogers. They're saying there's no updates on him right now, so I would say he's out indefinitely.
I know. I mean, we'll see, but it was to his non-throwing shoulder, so like I'm not over.
Yep, it sounds like it's more than that now. I don't know. That's just my read from. What?
We'll see. He goes to the IL with a hamstring strain. Michael Busch comes up. You're obviously holding on to Muncy in most formats, but any interest in Michael Busch?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you want to take a shot on a prospect, he's got some power. He had 32 homers, I think, in the minors last year. I don't know what to expect from him, honestly. Not a lot of buzz around Michael Busch, maybe because he was up earlier and he didn't really play very much. But, Muncy, hamstring strain, I'm guessing that's going to be at least 3 to 4 weeks. So you're going to get some run out of Michael Busch. If you're looking for a guy who has some pop, I would go for it. I didn't really look into him too much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I kind of wish I had grabbed him because, like, Michael Busch's big issue has been, like, he's bad defensively. Like, he doesn't really have a defensive home. But the Dodgers running out of players in general. Like, they just need bodies at this point. And I think Busch is probably going to get a full complement of plate appearances kind of until Max Muncy comes back. I mean, Miguel Vargas has been really, really disappointing. Chris Taylor is injured and hurt and sucks. They just don't have a ton of options for especially that infield right now. So I like Michael Busch. I think, especially in deeper formats, which is probably where you would want to pick him up. I think he is a pretty smart pickup right now. So I think he's going to have a prominent role in this offense for a little while.
I like his 15% walk rate and 21% K rate in the minors. And he's hitting .313. My only question is, 7 homers and 215 plate appearances. It's not that that's like horrible. It's just, it's nothing that really stands out, I guess. So I guess we'll see if he can translate that that power to the majors. But I think he would be good because I think you could have gotten him for pretty cheap. So I think it's if you're in a deep league, for sure. The shower leagues, I probably wouldn't be adding him in 12s yet.
Yeah, I think I agree. Jazz Chisholm is close to a rehab assignment. Do we care?
Well, I don't care because I don't own him anywhere, but I imagine his fantasy baseball owners will care very much because they have been desperate to get him back. But they've already said that he's going to need surgery in the offseason. So I don't know how active he's going to be on the base paths. I'd imagine it's a pain tolerance thing with his turf toe. So I guess we'll have to see if he comes back and is if he's his normal Jazz Chiz himself or if he's going to be kind of a lesser version of him. What do you think?
I wonder why the Marlins are bringing him back at all. If he needs like surgery, like just have the surgery now. Like have him be healthy coming into next season. Maybe he can even come back at the end of this season. But like, what are the Marlins playing for at this point? Like, why are they even risking like like I know there's this idea that you can't make it any worse. You can always make things worse, especially when you're a guy who always gets hurt, which is Jazz Chisholm. The reason why I don't have him on any teams this year, like everybody trying to push him up into the top like 50 picks this year, like, oh, Jazz Chisholm, all he's got to do is stay healthy. If you have to like lead off with a caveat of all he's got to do, it's a bad like process. Like,
Justin, don't you know this from your Sleeper in the Bust co-host? Injury risk isn't a real thing. I mean, it doesn't actually exist. And I don't know anything about it, and none of us know anything about it. So how dare you insinuate that we can know that Jazz Chisholm is going to get hurt?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and Paul's not wrong, because I think you guys have the same opinion. You guys just voice it a little bit differently, or weight it a little bit differently. I think we would all agree that anybody can get hurt, right?
That's not what anybody's saying, though. They're saying that anybody can get hurt. Yeah, obviously, but some people do legitimately have a far higher chance. Like, if you think it's just bad luck that Byron Buxton gets hurt every year, come on.
And I think Paul and other people would agree with that too. I think the question becomes, how much do you weigh that, right? Like, and
I would say that the vast majority of this industry does not weigh it nearly enough, and that's why they have issues with this.
And I used to be in that camp, right?
Yeah.
I used to be the person that did not weigh that. I would say, screw it. I know there's a little bit added risk, but I'm willing to take it for this upside. And I'm no longer willing to do that.
I know, and I've praised you for that. I've seen that change in you, and that makes you a much better player now.
But it's all a matter of degrees, I think, and at least in my opinion. Like, I mean, I don't think there's that much difference in terms of opinions on players like Jazz Chisholm. But the problem is when you start using those caveats on, like, all he has to do, like, then you've already started to negate some of the apparent risk. And the reason why I was out on Jazz Chisholm is I just had no faith that he was going to stay healthy for the whole season. Right? Well, anybody can get hurt. At any time, like I completely agree with that. But there are certain guys that get hurt more often, and I'm just not willing to risk that.
Exactly. And it's, it's partially the way he plays. He plays with his hair on fire. And those kind of guys.
Well, and he was moving to a brand new position he had never played before. Like, like this idea that like it was just a bad idea all around to move him. It was bad for the pitchers. We see Sandy Alcantara like struggle because the defense behind it, or partially because the defense behind him. I think partially just bad luck, partially new rules. But Jazz Chisholm, like, he's a pretty darn good second baseman, a pretty darn good shortstop. Like, why are you moving into center field where he's never played before? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
But I mean, in late April and early May, all of the anti-injury people are like, imagine fading Jazz Chisholm this year. Imagine all these Imagineers coming out. And it's like, yeah, well, this is why. So I'm happy with that fade.
You know what a Venn diagram is, right?
I do.
So the Venn diagram of people who were saying that about Jazz Chisholm, and the Venn and the circle of people who was saying that about Byron Buxton after a month and a half last year. It is the same fucking circle.
Yep, all the people who are taking victory laps. I mean, guys, how many years are you guys going to keep taking victory laps in April and early May before you learn your lesson? Like, don't take victory laps on.
I've got no problem taking the victory laps.
I see this shit on Twitter all the time, and it's just so stupid. I'm like, this is going to look real dumb.
Be ready. Yeah, be ready to look really stupid is what I was saying.
I mean,
I'm okay with
asking.
Stupid. Like, for me, it's fun. Like, I don't care. Like, it's, like,
I get it, but I don't do this shit. Like, I know better. I've seen how quickly things can turn, especially, but like, never take victory laps on injury prone players early on, because the whole reason is that you don't think that they're going to stay healthy the whole year. So a month in, who gives a shit that they're still healthy? Like, that's irrelevant. Talk to me in September when they're still healthy.
Mm-hmm. The same people who were taking victory laps on Dylan Cease after 2 or 3 starts this year.
Yeah.
How's that working out for you? So I like to take the victory laps on the victory lappers. That is how it is done, my friend.
That is the best way to do it. It's so much effort to go back and find them in there. I mean, I do know who some of the Cease victory lappers were, though. I remember.
Oh yeah, no, I straight up called him out on the sleeper in the bus earlier this
year. Did you? Wait. Which victory lapper are you referring to?
Oh, John Legeza. He knows. He tweeted at me.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure David Mendelson. These are all friends of mine who I love as people, and they know I'm just playing around.
I'm pretty sure Rob DiPietro was victory lapping Cease early on. That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. I can't remember. I should keep receipts, but I don't. I'm too lazy.
It's so much effort, dude. I can't do it.
There's too many tweets. Carlos Rodon is beginning a rehab assignment on Tuesday. Look, this feels like it's gonna end poorly because that's all it's done this year is end poorly. But I'm intrigued.
Well, I mean, sure. If you can, if you can pick him up somewhere, obviously do it. I mean, the talent is immense, but he was a full fade for me because, I mean, listen, I would take him if he was going at a reasonable cost. He was not going at a reasonable cost. And Zach made fun of me on his pod talking about, he's like, oh, Dave says I don't like guys who stay healthy for a year. He was trying to make fun of me. And it's like, okay, dude, what I'm saying is if you've got a guy who's had a bunch of missed a ton of time like he has with injuries in their career, when they finally stay healthy for a season and they're really good, the next season when they're at their high water mark at ADP, that is not the time to take them. You want to take them after they're coming off another injured season and people are really low on him. That's when you take them. You don't take them coming off the one healthy season that they've had because they're not going to stay healthy for another season 9 out of 10 times. So when Rodon missed all this time, it's like, well, yeah, easy to see this coming. So if you can pick him up, if you can get him now, you do it. Could this still go badly? Could he have setbacks in his rehab? 100% he could.
I mean, he's already had setbacks,
right?
Since he's been on the IL.
Yeah, he was supposed to be back, a month and a half ago or something, or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, he's currently 100% owned in the main event, 100% owned in online championships. I assume he's pretty close to that in Yahoo and
Yahoo. He's not on
because there's IL slots there, so people are stash him. So, in the chat right now, someone is saying what his velocity looks like is probably really going to determine interest if it's down even a bit. Because probably isn't healthy even if it's down. I agree. I mean, velocity is a big thing. This is a guy who's been injury prone his entire career. Career. This is one of the main reasons why his prospect pedigree fell off after being the number one pitching prospect in baseball for a number of years because he couldn't stay healthy.
Right.
I hope I am wrong. Seems like a great person. He's really fun to watch pitch when he's at his best, but there's also a reason why the Giants didn't even entertain signing him to a long-term deal.
Right. And I mean, this is a guy who pitched literally 42, less than 42 innings for all of 2019 and 2020. So, when Phil drafted him in 2021 and he went nuts for him in 133 innings, he drafted him in round 25 or whatever, that's how you do it, guys. Take them when the stock is way down, but the talent is still there. Don't take them when the stock is way up, whatever. He has to stay healthy to even come close to returning value. There's no way that you're coming out on top of this. So that's what I'm saying. I will never draft guys that high who are coming off of a healthy season who cannot stay healthy.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'd argue that there are examples where you do, as you talk about Yordan Alvarez being on the IL again. But I think there's a reason why you drafted Yordan just because I think he is a pretty transcendent player.
Yeah, I mean he was coming off of 2 full seasons, and I mean he only missed 2020 really. So we knew that the hand was an issue coming in, but this is an oblique injury. This is not exactly Obliques happen to everybody. And
but this is all. I mean, it's also like his third injury this year, isn't it?
I don't know. He might have missed like a week or something. Like, yes, we drafted him knowing that there was some injury risk, but when it comes to drafting at the end of the first round, this is one of the worst years I can remember in history of getting a late first round pick. Like pick 14 in a 15-team league was the literal worst. So, I hated it. Yeah,
no, that's why I tried to draft in the middle this year for sure.
I wanted anything above pick 9 or earlier. I mean, pick 1 was a cheat code with Acuna, but it's just been one of those years where it's been just trying to play catch up when you have a late pick.
Absolutely. Tarik, Skubal, and Matt Manning are coming back here pretty quickly. I think Manning's on rehab and Skubal originally was expected to come back this week, but
they're both on rehab right now.
Okay. Yeah, Skubal was originally supposed to come back this week. Doesn't look like he's going to come back. He's going to come back next week. I'm not super interested in either right away. I think these are more long-term plays personally. Where are you at on these guys?
Yeah, Matt Manning, I have no interest in whatsoever. Okay. But Tarik Skubal, I definitely. I mean, the guy has legit secondary ace type skills. He was throwing 97. The thing is, they're both up to like 3 innings, so I don't think that they're coming back this week. I think next week is probably unlikely. I would say maybe the following week you could see them return. The Tigers definitely need an influx of healthy starters, although there was some good news about Eduardo Rodriguez as well, possibly coming back sooner than people think. Although if what I read about that injury is correct, it doesn't sound like even if he does come back that he's going to be, the same guy. So we'll see what you get out of him. But Skubal is the guy who I'm interested in, but he's even in Yahoo leagues, he's owned everywhere for me.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Skubal is I think there's immense upside. We know he can strike out a ton of guys when he's healthy. The problem for me is like he's only gone a max of 3 innings. He went 2 innings in his first rehab start, 3 innings in his second, 3 innings in his third. I just don't trust that he's going to be able to go 5 or 6 innings anytime in the next few weeks. And so you're pretty much picking him up to stash him. And I don't know that I really want to pick up a Tigers pitcher to stash. I guess I get it in a deeper format, but for the most part, I think most leagues I'm probably not doing that. Like I had someone who asked me on Twitter earlier this week, like, would I rather pick up and stash Gavin Williams or would I rather stash Tarik Skubal? And I said it's Gavin Williams. It's not close. Even though I like Skubal, it's Gavin Williams. So
I agree with you there for sure.
Yeah, I just don't think he's going to go deep enough into games until probably after the All-Star break. That would make sense for him to be on most rosters. Yeah, I do like Matt Manning more than you, but again, it's still a Detroit pitcher.
For this year, you have some interest?
I haven't seen what he's done in rehab, so I'd have to see, like, is he going deep enough where he can qualify for a win? But I don't like picking up any pitcher that I don't think is going to go deep enough to qualify for a win. There just isn't enough upside there. So I guess I could probably look it up as we talk and kind of see what he's done so far as I look for words to allow my internet to. But yeah, so his most recent start, he went in the minor leagues. He went 3 innings. So, and then in his previous one, he went an inning in 2/3. So at this point, no. I like Matt Manning, like I said, more than I think you do. From a general's perspective, I think he's a really efficient, interesting pitcher who's still got some upside that people don't remember from his prospect pedigree. But I need him to be going 5 innings, especially, when, he's not like getting blown up or anything. He should be going more than 3 innings before I'm willing to like pick him up as a guy in a deeper format. So next guy on the list is we have Kent Maeda is going to get called up this week and be in potentially a 6-man rotation in Minnesota. I made it very apparent last week when we were talking with Nick that I do not care.
You did, yeah, and. By the way, I saw in his SP roundup that he was talking about you and something about Sir Nick Pollock or something. What was all that
nonsense? Yes. Well, you were on the podcast when
I was, but Nick says a lot of things, and it's hard to remember all of them.
Yeah. So Daniel Lynch, we had the argument over whether I should stream Daniel Lynch or not against the Reds at home, and he told me that if I was wrong, then I had to call him Sir Nick Pollock, and I did call him Sir Nick Pollock because
I saw that.
Fucking wrong. It was brutal. Though the hard part was it was actually really one really bad inning. Like Daniel Lynch was great for the first like 3 or 4 innings, got blown up, and then went out and delivered 2 more innings of pretty good work. But that one inning, ended up being, I think he gave up 6 earned runs in that inning, gave up another one later, and so 7 earned runs, like. That fucking kills you. So, it is Sir Nick Pollock. Yeah, absolutely.
So, listen, with Kenta Maeda, I don't know what all to expect. I think he gave up 4 walks in his last rehab outing. I cannot remember if it was in 4 or 5 innings that he went, but I did see that he is returning to the rotation this week. And they have talked about making it a 6-man rotation. He went 4 1/3 innings, and he gave up 4 walks, only 2 hits, and 4 Ks. And he hasn't walked guys in any of his other outings. He only has 1 walk in his other 3 outings combined. So, probably just a blip there. I'm not like you. I am interested in Kenta Maeda if it's, cheap. And I'm just, he wasn't a guy I was willing to hold, like to stash. I didn't think he was good enough to stash. He's a guy who I would pick up for a few bucks, or if in a 12, he's like a last guy in my rotation kind of candidate just to see what he looks like, but not super high expectations for him. But the main thing is trying to figure out how is this going to affect Louis Varland. So, coming off of another bad outing against Detroit, the 2 before that were forgivable because he faced really good offenses, but now coming off of a drubbing versus Detroit is not a good look for him with Maeda coming back. So I don't know if he's going to straight up take Varland's rotation spot or if they are going to go to a 6-man, because they do have a lot of guys who need to, who can't go full bore. They can't pitch, Lopez and Ober and Sonny Gray every start for the rest of the year. They're not going to all stay healthy. So they're going to have to, I think, maybe give them a little bit of a break, and maybe a temporary 6-man rotation allows that.
Yeah. I don't think Louis Varland's as good as everybody else thinks he is. I just and the results continue to bear itself out. And I know people keep giving
just the last 3 starts.
I mean, just the entire season. He's got a 5.30 ERA, a 4.77 xERA. So, yes, he isn't as bad as the surface stats say he has been, but he's still bad.
No, I don't think he is.
4.77 xERA means
xERA is not. You should be looking at Sierra, not xERA. 4.13 Sierra. That's what he deserves. xERA sucks. Look at him start by start since April. I mean, other than the last 3 and 1 other start, he's been pretty damn good.
I think
you're totally your opinion, but I'm still into Varland if he continues to get reps because he limits walks. He strikes out enough guys. I like his pitch mix. Throws 95. I'm still into him, so we'll see what happens. But prospects have this; they have ups and downs. What prospect hasn't? Bybee's been getting shelled lately.
Sure.
Logan Allen gotten shelled. Bobby Miller just got shelled. So if we're gonna look at every prospect like that, then they've all sucked, and they all suck apparently.
No, I don't think that's fair because he has continuously sucked.
He has not continuously sucked. He sucked for 3 starts in a row. He did not suck before that. This is a guy I actually keep up on. He has not sucked before those 3 starts.
He's had 2 legitimately good starts this year out of 10. Where he's given up less than 2 earned runs.
Okay, so you have to give up less than 2 earned runs to be a good start. Okay.
Not necessarily, but you can't like say okay, you want to do like less than 3? Then he's had 3 out of 10.
It's starts. Not just earned runs aren't the only factor, Justin. It's strikeouts and whip affected too. His whip has been pretty damn good in most of his starts. It's just a few starts that he got rocked in. I mean, like in Tampa and Toronto, those are starts that most pitchers are going to get rocked in.
All right. What would you consider a good whip?
What do you mean? Overall or for a game?
Give me a number. What would you say a number of a good whip?
I don't know. Anything,
1.15?
Yeah, under 1.2 is solid.
Okay, he's had 2 starts this year where he's at a whip under 1.17.
That's such a random number.
I mean, but it's still to the point.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6 starts to me look like pretty solid whips. 5 base runners in 7 innings, 7 base runners in 6 innings, 7 base runners in 5 innings, 5 base runners in 6 1/3, 7 base runners in 6 innings. Those are all good. 7 base runners in 6 innings again. Yeah, I mean, whatever. I feel like there's a little bit of bias here on your end, but that's fine. I don't know. I think Louis Varland.
I don't have Louis Varland.
He's much better. He's much better than the results speak for. So if he gets more chances to prove it, he will. But we'll see.
I mean, I'm happy to like be proven wrong. Like I don't have anything against Louis Varland, but like we're now at like a month straight of starts where he has a 145 whip and 6 ERA. And
a month. It's 2 weeks. It's 3 starts. That's it. Before that, he went 7 scoreless against Houston.
Okay, but that's 1 start. You're giving like you have to weigh all the other starts with those.
He was fine in the start.
Chances are most people didn't start him versus Houston.
I started him versus Houston.
Okay, you may have, but I'm saying chances are most people didn't.
Houston isn't Houston right now. They're becoming more Houston now, but I mean, especially without. Well, they had Jordan at that point, but still,
most people didn't start Louis Varland at Houston.
No, I think most people did
with Jordan.
You know why they started him? Because he had been pretty damn good so far at that point. So, like in a 15-team league, what options do you think you have to bench Louis Varland? I mean,
don't get me wrong. He's had a murderer's row of contestants, right? Like, or of opponents. Like, I'm not saying like he hasn't had like a shitty run of starts in terms of like who he's had to go against. But like, there's also, I think, this idea that like once some people in the industry or identify like, hey, this guy's good, this guy's better than the underlying skills, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying a lot of people have piled on to Louis Varland being a thing. I think there's a pretty good chance Louis Varland is just not a thing.
Okay.
I've watched the guy. You don't give up the amount of home runs that he's given up with the kind of command that people allege to say that he has. And I do wonder if the jump in velocity has affected his ability to command his pitches. Because, we got this jump in velocity, everybody got really, really excited, and all of a sudden he's giving up homers left and right, which is not something he necessarily did in the minor leagues. Maybe the jump in velocity is a bad thing.
Maybe it's just a bad run, and it's only been 10 starts, and I need to see a much bigger sample size before I can make any definitive like that.
You may not get a larger.
I mean, not, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if he could go back down after this. I mean, I think coming off of that start against Detroit, I do think it would make sense for them to keep him in and make it a 6-man. But it wouldn't shock me if they took him out of the rotation. But
if they do take him out of the rotation and you're a believer, you should stick with him. You absolutely should, because Kenta Maeda, Sonny Gray, Bailey Ober, all these guys have had injury issues.
A lot of and I already am, dude. Because if you look at who you can pick up in 15s and competitive,
it's a fucking nightmare.
Oh, it's beyond a nightmare. And then if you think he's gonna get called up in the next 2 weeks, why would I drop him? So I'm not going to.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you on that front. I disagree with you in terms of how good Louis Varland actually is.
Well,
but we shall see.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see who's taking a victory lap at the end of the season. Let's remember this date of.
I don't like victory laps. So I don't. But all right, I'll
you can take him at the end of the season. Come on.
I just don't. I've never liked victory laps, but
I can promise you, if I am right, I will be taking a victory.
Oh, I know you fucking love victory laps. I'm aware.
Absolutely have. They're the best things in the world. Henry Davis, former first overall pick of the Pittsburgh Pirates, is called up. Played right field today, and he's played quite a bit of right field in the minor leagues as of late. Catcher eligible. How interested are you going to be to blow a bunch of fab on Henry Davis this weekend?
I mean, it's like every other time you ask me this question, I don't have any fab to blow on anybody.
Yeah, but, me neither.
Hypothetically speaking, if I had fab to blow, I do like this as a guy to put some money on, and here's why. They said he's going to get most of his playing time in the outfield and then play catcher sometimes. This is exactly what you want from your catchers. You know, this is like MJ Melendez, Dalton Varsho. You're getting a guy who's going to be playing every single day, even when he's not catching. So that's what you want out of your catchers. So he's going to be getting way more at bats, plate appearances than other catchers. He's got some pop and he's got some speed. You know, he had 11 homers and 9 steals this year in the minors, hitting 285 with, a reasonable K rate. He was at 18.7% in AA, moved up to AAA. The K rate went up, but it was in a small sample of only 45 plate appearances. This guy also walks a ton. His walk rate is like 17.5% for this year. So that's crazy high. Hopefully he's not too patient where he's not swinging at pitches, but he had a 48% hard hit rate, 109 max EV is decent. He doesn't hit, he does hit a good amount of, ground balls, but if he can keep the fly ball percentage, if he can get it up, maybe towards 40%, then I think, you could see some power there, but you're just getting an advantage over other catchers with him. So that's what I really like about it.
You went 1 for 3 and a walk today.
Okay.
Good sign. I wonder how much I'll be really interested to see early on, what the walk rate is, because I do wonder how much of that walk rate jump is people just pitching around him because they didn't want to get beat by the top tier prospect. And we do see that sometimes as guys progress to the minor leagues when they're top tier prospects. So I'll be interested to see, can he maintain this high walk rate that we've seen? That being said, I completely agree with your analysis. This is a guy that could be a C1 at, from this point on, because he's playing every day, and how many catchers get to play every day? And we know he's got tools. Yeah. I do wonder what the batting average is going to look like. I don't know that he's got an advanced hit tool. And so I think there are going to be strikeouts. I think I don't know that he's going to have a fantastic average, but dude can hit 240 and it comes with a bunch of power and some chip and stolen bases, hitting in the middle of a pretty decent Pittsburgh lineup that is winning that division at the moment. That's going to be a really, really valuable guy. On the Sleeper and the Bust earlier today, we talked about Davis and Danny Jansen, and Yainer Diaz, who had another home run today, and Bo Naylor, who got called up as well. And we'll talk about him on the Wednesday episode because he was one of the top pickups in Earth this week. And I said that I think you make an argument for any of them to be the top catcher, out of that group rest of the way. But I think that if we're talking about a guy who's going to run away with that competition, I think it's Davis, because he's going to get the plate appearances to way out produce those guys if he can hit.
I agree. I would like to be higher on Bo Naylor. I'm not really a homer. I'm just someone who researches my team a lot, and I'm not super into Bo Naylor for this year. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's a difference maker for the Guardians, but I would pick up I would pick up Davis over him 10 times out of 10. So
I agree.
Obviously, the playing time is going to be a big difference because Bo Naylor, when he's not catching, he's going to sit. So it's not really that close either. Davis is way ahead. Now, here's my question to you: do you How high of a prospect was Henry Davis rated coming into the season? Because coming into the season, I didn't know who he was. Did you know who he was?
Oh yeah, I mean he was the first overall pick a few years ago. I mean he was like a top 25, top 30 prospect. But here's the thing: nobody thought he was coming to the majors this year because the Pirates have a top 50 prospect at catcher who he leapfrogged.
Yeah,
and so everybody was drafting. I'm blanking on the guy's name at the moment. But I can
look are you talking about Endy Rodriguez?
Yes, yeah. Everybody was drafting Endy Rodriguez, which I told people, not for this reason, but I told people was a fucking mistake to be drafting Endy Rodriguez in draft and hold leagues and in some redraft leagues. But Davis.
What was your reasoning?
One, catchers very rarely translate very well. And they often are slow roasted. And we're talking about a Pittsburgh organization that slow roasts their prospects to begin with. And even if he did make the majors, I don't think he has like a fantasy friendly profile. It's more of a real life profile that's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Like he doesn't do anything particularly well. He's kind of a sum of all parts guy, which is fine as like a low end C2 in fantasy. But when you're stashing a guy, you want that guy to have some tremendous upside. And I don't think Endy Rodriguez has that tremendous upside.
I think this year has forever changed the prospect landscape for us because what we've seen is anybody can come up at any time.
Yeah.
Honestly, like we're really getting to the point where teams are looking for the best players now. They're not willing to wait on, deadlines and stuff like that to save money for the most part. So a big part of my prep next year is going to be doing a deeper dive on a lot of the prospects and figuring out where teams have holes, and so that like when a lot of these guys get called up, I'm ready for it. Because like guys get called up and you're trying to, especially like in leagues like Fantrax where you have to add guys right away, otherwise they're because it's first come first serve. It's not fab or anything, so you just pick guys up whenever you can. You can pick up and hold, you can stash guys. People had Ellie stashed since April. And I just felt like behind because there's a lot of guys that I didn't know well enough coming into the year. So that's what I need to work on for next year because so many of these guys are getting called up where we have to know who they are now.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Like, while I agree, like I think to be a complete fantasy player, even in a redraft league nowadays, you need to like know these prospects. And I have, I would say better than basic knowledge of at least the top tier prospects. A lot of the prospects that have come up have not been top tier prospects, guys who I don't really even know until I hear their name. Like, hey, this guy's coming up, and I've now got to go look him up, go read, the work of Matt Thompson or James Anderson or Eric Longenhagen, like, the prospect guys I trust, Drew Wheeler, all those guys, Eddie Almaguer, but we also have a very selective memory because people are going to be like, well, you need to know these guys so that way you can grab them, because they can be huge difference makers. And people are going to forget like Brandon Pfaadt was like the big talk, right? Coming, during draft season. Andrew Painter was the big talk. These prospects still fail at a remarkable rate. Even like, you talk about, Tanner Bibby, who no one was talking about coming into the season as a guy that we're going to really, really need to have. Like he's had struggles.
That is not true.
No, but you weren't drafting Tanner Bibby anywhere.
Yeah, I was. In DCs, I drafted him everywhere.
Okay. I mean,
yeah,
I think
that. Oh no, Bobby should not have been and I told everybody, I was like, do not look into Daniel Espino's not the guy. He's not going to come up this year. I said it's Bybee is the big guy, and then Logan Allen is another one. So I was actually going to ask you because I know the Guardians system extremely well, but I don't know other teams the way I know the Guardians. Did you know who Logan Allen like was Logan Allen on your radar before?
Logan Allen was, but Bybee wasn't.
Okay.
Bybee,
that's interesting. Okay.
Bybee was like, a guy who was a prospect of note, but like he wasn't the the top tier guy like Gavin Williams and Logan Allen and Espino were the guys that most people were really excited about.
See, Bibby's always been top. It's always been Bibby and Gavin Williams top 2. So it's weird that you heard differently because, like Logan Allen was not in the same conversation as Bibby in terms of prospect status, at least not.
Well, Logan Allen's taken a dip over recent years. So
he had an off year last year, but the surface stats wise, but underneath it, the skills were still good. So I was still in on Logan Allen, but regardless, he was not Tanner Bibby good. Bibby had the velocity difference was big between the two of them. Bibby also had better command and control, although I feel like his command has suffered since he's come up for whatever reason.
I mean, he may, be tiring out a little bit. It's hard to pitch in the majors. He's putting on a lot of innings, but he's been fine for rookie season.
I expect him to be better moving forward, but pitchers are always going to be up and down. So,
well, prospects in general are going to be up and down. I mean, Alec Thomas has been up and down when he's been, outside of Corbin Carroll, they've all been up and down.
And Corbin Carroll wasn't great last year. I mean, he was solid, but he was not this guy last year.
Yeah, I mean, very few people thought he was going to be. I mean, no one thought people would be taking him in the first round if you thought he was going to do this. It was just. I mean,
I always thought it was possible. For me, he was the obvious guy not going in the first round who could easily return first round value because it's always the combo guys. It's the guys who can hit home runs and steal bases.
Look at Jordan Walker. Jordan Walker's been up and down. And partially not as. Yeah, and partially not his fault too, right? The Cardinals have just been so
jerking him around.
Loaded with guys that they didn't have a spot for him necessarily. But this, Grayson Rodriguez is a really good example of a starting pitcher where everybody was in on him. Everybody was like, "Oh, this guy's going to be amazing." Once they announced he was going to be in the rotation, people were getting really, really excited. And he was he fucking hurt you. He actively hurt your chances. Yeah. Of winning your league when you had him in your roster. Now he's been fantastic in AAA. People are going to get excited again. And what I'm hoping
is that people remember the guy that hurt them and they're not interested in him anymore. Because I will take all the Grayson Rodriguez when he comes back because that guy has frontline ace potential. And whether he puts it together this year, next year, or the following year, I'm going to keep being in on him because he has the ability to do it. And it's going to happen at some point. And that's the thing. People just get tired of staying in on prospects when they fail at first. And then they succeed.
Jared Kelnick.
Yeah, exactly.
Jared Kelnick, yeah.
Always post hype because like you said, the majors are hard. You come up, you struggle. That's normal. But they're going to figure it out at some point if they're good. For a lot of these guys, they have the skills. They just need to put it together. And so I had Grayson Rodriguez on here. I actually think he's going to be back up soon. I don't know if it'll be I don't know. I think he's probably going to get one more start would be my guess in the minors. And then he comes up after that. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah. There's no reason he needs to be blocked off by Cole Irvin or a Dean Kremer.
Cole Irvin. He's so bad.
If you can stash Grayson Rodriguez, he's not available in any of my leagues, but if he's available in your league, pick him up and stash him.
I stashed him in Yahoo, and Yahoo is pretty damn Lance Lynn was available in a Yahoo league to give you an example of how shallow it is. So, I mean, granted, Lance Lynn been pretty bad so far this year, but guys like that typically aren't available in most leagues. But Grayson Rodriguez just has that ability where I'm willing to take a shot this year. So I want to see what happens when he comes back up.
And since we mentioned him, I'll move up. Ryan Nelson start, but that opens the door for Brandon Pfaadt. Are you stashing Brandon Pfaadt?
Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt. They want him to be the guy. Lavallo is not committing to Ryan Nelson. He's basically saying after every start, they're well, we're going to evaluate him and see about next start. We don't know if Nelson's going to make that start or not. I've watched some interviews with him. And someone else asked, is Dre Jameson an option? He said, no, Dre Jameson's just a bullpen guy now. So really it seems and I don't know this Diamondback system that well, to be fair. There could be other options there that I'm not aware of, but I think that they want Pfaadt to be that guy, and I just don't know if he is, at least not for right now, because he just got lit up again. He had some solid starts. And then I think it was yesterday, he gave up 3 homers, and it's like, I don't know. Like, other than that, he was decent. He went 6 innings, 6 Ks, 1 walk, 6 hits, but 3 homers. So I don't know. I think he needs to put together maybe 2 good starts in the minors in a row before maybe they're going to bring him up.
I mean, I will say that the Diamondbacks, I believe, play their AAA games at Reno, which is a launching pad. So they're going to be home runs given up. So like, I wouldn't like get overly worried, and I'm just double checking to make sure. Oh no, they were at Oakland. So is that Sacramento, or is that
shit if I know? I don't know.
They switch them around every once in a while, and it totally throws me off. But PCL. I mean, PCL. Like, I wouldn't worry too much about home runs given up and stuff like that. For me, like, walks, are a big thing. Only 1 walk over his last 2 starts. It was also, he saw the same AAA team 2 starts in a row, which is, sometimes, guys get a second chance to look at you over the course of 5 days or 6 days, and they have just a better chance of hitting it. So I'm not super worried about that. For me, it's encouraging to see him go 6 innings in spite of the struggles. Got the strikeouts, didn't, only walked 1 guy in that last outing, didn't walk anybody in the outing previous. I would be interested to maybe try to stash him, but there's also risk, right? We saw it when he came up,
But that's the thing, like, when he was up, walks weren't really the issue. Home runs were. So when I see the 3 home runs, that's where I'm like, okay. And it's not that I'm sure he's better than Ryan Nelson if they bring him up. I don't think it's about that. I don't think they want to bring him up and have him. I don't think they want to damage his confidence that much. I think they only want to bring him up when they know he's ready. And I think they want to see him string together a few good outings. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know.
I mean, they may just try to like make do with what it is. Like, the only other guy on the 40-man roster in AAA, in the rotation AAA, is Connor Pilkington. So, like,
I'm familiar.
I knew you were. So, they don't have a lot of other options. They may try to just make do with what they've got, and then address it at the trade deadline. Because this is a team that's got a farm system they could trade from to go out and get, I don't know, maybe like a Shane Bieber type,
I think that Shane Bieber is a guy who will be on the move come playoff time. So, or come trade deadline time. So maybe he'd be a good pickup for Arizona.
Yeah, I definitely think he could be on the move, especially if the Guardians start to fall out of it towards the trade deadline. We'll see though. Encarnacion Strand's playing the outfield in AAA. Joey Votto is he back now, or is he?
He came back in over today.
Oh, there you go. So, Encarnacion Strand, I think, is better, obviously suited to be a DH or a first baseman, but because of Votto coming back, that means that he just doesn't have a spot. So I think he's going to take a little bit of time to learn the outfield, but once he comes up, man, he is I think a must pick up because he's got immense power.
Yeah. And then some. I mean, 17 homers and 228 plate appearances, all while hitting 348. He's not striking out a ton, 22.5%, 10% walk rate, all really good. 114 max EV, 50% hard hit rate, good launch angle, 16.5 degrees. Everything you want in a power hitter, in the perfect park for power, in Cincy there. So I don't know how they're going to make do here. I don't know what they're, I don't know. For me personally, guys like Votto, Senzel, and Will Myers, I don't think they're really adding to the team. I guess we'll see what you've got with Votto. And I know they're not just going to release Votto. He's been like, he's the heart and soul of that team, and great guy, great personality and everything, like rooting for him. But at the same time, I want some of these more interesting prospects to come up because I'm stashing Encarnacion Strand in several leagues. So
I did drop him in Barf. Somebody had drafted him. I picked him up, but I just didn't have the flexibility to keep holding him.
That happens sometimes, yeah.
Because he's got to learn how to play the play it defensively, and like I just don't know how long that takes a guy of his size to kind of figure out. He might be up soon, he might not. Someone in the chat saying that Myers gets optioned probably.
He should. I mean, I don't know how much. I don't think he has any real trade value.
Yeah, I don't. He said or traded, but I don't. Think
I could see him getting optioned.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Senzel can't stay healthy. Honestly, they have some other interesting guys, some lesser known guys. Will Benson is looking really good. He's not striking out anymore, and this is a guy with immense power and speed, but he's not getting playing time because there's so many mouths to feed there. Stuart Fairchild, another guy who's kind of interesting. But again, not really getting enough playing time because where do you play all these guys?
Fairchild is a lefty masher. Like he's not an everyday player. Like he's a short side platoon. In spite of his girlfriend
so is Senzel, though, by the way.
Well, Senzel
sucks.
It's Senzel. It's Senzel. Okay. But Senzel also plays third. Like he's not like
they have enough guys at third. I mean, they've got they've got Steer, they've got Encarnacion Strand. They don't need Senzel's not. They're playing him more in the outfield. I thought lately.
I mean, I think they're trying to figure it all out right now. They have too many guys, and I mean, if Senzel still had trade value, I'm sure they would trade him. But the only way they can recoup some of his trade value is by playing him.
But they're also a contender, so I don't think that should be the number one priority for them.
I don't know. I mean, they're not really contenders. Like I know they're technically they're leading the division right now. Which I didn't actually even realize.
They have to keep pushing that. Like, there's no way you can just give up. Like, you're leading your division. This team hasn't been.
They've given up before. Like, this is what the Reds do. They just give up.
But like, why would they be bringing up all these guys right now? And they have so much. They have more momentum than any team in the majors right now. I don't see them giving up on that. That makes no sense to me.
I mean, I don't trust the organization. I mean, I hope you're right. I think the Reds being good is really, really fun. But I'm not like super enthused by that. So, all right, let's move on and talk about Matt Mervis being optioned down to AAA, which happened earlier last week. Super, super disappointing. I know he had been disappointing at the plate, but all the signs pointed to he was going to turn it around at some point. Are you holding on to Matt Mervis anywhere?
No, not really. He wasn't a guy I was overly interested in this year. I think he was hyped up a little bit more than he should have been. And I'm not saying in the future he can't be a good player, but for this year, I don't have any interest in Matt Mervis.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hold on to him anywhere. He is a guy that I'm going to be watching in AAA because if he does look like he's coming back, then I think he'll be an interesting pickup, and he'll be a cheap pickup. So, but I holding on to him for right now. Yeah. I mean, he was still hitting the ball really hard, and and he finally started making good contact in the zone. Like, I think the turnaround was coming, and the Cubs just gave up on him a little bit too early, which makes sense considering Bellinger was coming back, and Bellinger
32% strikeout rate is like he was not a strikeout guy in the minors. So I think he just I don't know if pitchers figured out what to throw him or whatever. I really never looked into it because he wasn't a guy I was really interested in this year. But he was striking out way too much to be effective.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it, I'm going to bring it up right now, so just bear with me for a second. Like, you look at like what he had been doing over the previous 3 weeks prior to being sent down. Yeah, he was striking out still at like an over 30% rate. But it was really like cold strikes. He was being a little too, he was getting unlucky on cold strikes in the zone, because he was actually making above average zone contact. He wasn't swinging outside of the zone. I think he was just kind of getting squeezed a little bit, or this
his zone contact. His zone contact was 80.7%. Unless you mean recently, his zone.
I said the previous 3 weeks to getting sent down. He had 87% zone contact, which is 2% above league average. So
I think eventually he'll figure it out. I just don't think that they wanted him to do it on their major league roster.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think he was figuring it out. And they just gave up a little bit too early on him.
And maybe, like you said, with Bellinger coming back and they have Suzuki.
They need a Bellinger wasn't ready to play.
And Morel is still hitting. Yeah. So I think maybe if Morel didn't get hot again, it's possible maybe he was the one who would have gotten sent down instead. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And Morel will go cold again at some point because he's still showing no.
Well, with his profile, there'll always be ups and downs for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Josh Rojas demoted Alek Thomas back up, and he homered tonight. I mean, not surprising. Alek Thomas is a premier defensive player. If they can get anything from him offensively, he's going to play full time. Yeah,
I don't know. Like I hadn't really been looking into him, but he was doing really well in the minors. He's hitting 350. He's not a guy with a ton of power or speed, but he does have some of both. So he's a guy who can kind of contribute everywhere. And I think he's interesting if he plays every day. I don't think he's not like a shallow league guy, but in NFBC, if I had thought about him getting called back up, I would be somewhat interested in Alek Thomas.
I absolutely. He was one of the most unlucky players at the beginning of the season prior to getting sent down. He's hit 195 on the season. This obviously doesn't include tonight. But his XBA was 249. He was just getting super unlucky on balls in play. He hits the ball hard. He plays amazing defense, which is the reason why he was on the roster to begin with, and the reason they sent out Jake McCarthy earlier on in the season. He's going to be a guy I'm going to try to scoop in a number of leagues for cheaply, and hope that people aren't listening to the podcast that are in my league.
There you go. Yeah, I think I don't know if he becomes a player to be viable in like 12s yet, but definitely in 15s, he's very interesting.
Yeah. He is one of those guys that think like Andrew Benintendi, not now current version, but previous version, where like he doesn't have a carrying tool in fantasy necessarily. So he needs the volume to be viable for fantasy, right? So like he's not a guy who's going to hit for a ton of power. He's not a guy who's going to steal a ton of bases, but he can do a little bit of everything. And so if he can get full-time playing time because of that defense, then he becomes a really interesting guy.
Also, that offense outside of Texas and Atlanta might be the best offense in baseball. So it might be like the third best offense in baseball. So any part of the Diamondbacks offense, I'm interested, honestly. Like, I mean, not every part, but a guy who can contribute like him and not hurt you anywhere and contribute in all categories, I'm interested.
We're going to talk about Jordan Hicks on the Wednesday episode because we're going to talk about all the Earth League moves. So I'm just going to bump that one because we've already gone an hour and 20 minutes and we still got 3 more episodes to record. Lance Lynn had 16 Ks on my bench. Screw you.
Yeah, no, of course. I benched him last week as well. And 16 Ks. So my question to you is, what are you doing about it? Are you do you think that this is the start of him kind of positive regression coming in now with where he's going to dominate for a good portion here? Or is this just a blip and he's going to go back to kind of being who he's been this season?
I don't fucking know. Like I don't fucking know anymore. Like I thought what he did at the end of last season or in the second half of last season was indicative of a guy who had top 25, top 30 starting pitcher skills. And a track record to show that he could go deep in innings, deep in games, and that a lot of his struggles early on last season were because he was coming off his injury, right? This year has just been an absolute mess. It's like he practiced with Lucas Giolito last year and went like, oh, I'm going to do what he did, which is just be hittable in random innings. I'd like to say that last week is indicative of the guy that he could be. You know, he had a rougher start against the Dodgers, but still got through it and then absolutely dominated on the weekend. I don't know. I didn't start him in my auction league where I went with the 4 closers instead. And I did start him in my main event. And I could totally see him fucking being great going out there and just shoving against Boston. Or I could see him fucking give up 3 home runs or 4 home runs and really screwing me. So And THP NOB in the chat says, just tells me to stream pitchers against Seattle. That definitely helps. Seattle is just weirdly awful this year.
Yeah, sure. That's certainly part of it. But I mean, he was a guy who I would never think about dropping in the main event or 15-team leagues, because look, even if he's
up and down, he's better than what's available on the wire.
Exactly. But like, he's such a workhorse too. But the thing is that I was thinking about was, it does seem like, because Alek Manoah, another big guy, it's like, are they kind of struggling because they're not in shape with maybe the pitch clock? Like, they're not able to fully recover between pitches. Maybe that's affecting him a bit, but I don't know. Like, the underlying stats, 3.87. I mean, he's got a 6.5 ERA and a 1.5 WHIP. I just, I can't think that that's who Lance Lynn is now.
I can't either.
3.87 Sierra, all the projections have him around a 1.2 WHIP. He's striking out 10.9 K per nine. The walk rate is up about a walk per nine, which is distressing. But I don't know. I feel like you have to just stick with him, as ugly as it's been. And I started him this week, even though I benched him last week because I had other options. I'm hoping that this is the start of something. But like you said, who the fuck knows? I did get called out in the chat without mentioning the Rays. You are correct. The Rays are 100% a top 3 offense. So I guess I'll just say that the Diamondbacks are top 5. But I really like what they've got with Walker, Lourdes Gurriel, McCarthy, Alek Thomas adds something now. Obviously Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte. It's just a really solid offense. And I do think that they're going to be scoring a lot of runs in the second half.
I hope they do, because I bet on them to win the division prior to the start of the season. So I'd really like to cash that bet. So that'd be a nice little payday. So that is going to, it was a long shot bet, but I really liked it. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Dave, remind everybody where you reached and what you're working on.
At RunDMCD on Twitter. And I have been complaining to Jake to put up my hitting charts on rotosource.com where the pitching charts are. And he does listen to all of our episodes, so he hears me complain about this every week. And I said, can you please help me out? Because I'm really tired of doing this every week when Justin asks me what I'm working on, that I wish he would just stop asking me, because I'm so tired of this. But I hope he finally fucking puts it on now that I guess we just got to keep calling him out. I don't know. What else can you do?
Get your shit together, Holitzker. You can reach me on Twitter at Mason FWFB. Email me the show, friendsoffantasybenefits@gmail.com. Definitely give us a 5-star review. Really, really helps us out. iTunes. I'll see the review on Spotify. Make sure you screenshot, send to me either via email, justmasonfantasy@gmail.com, or via Twitter DM. Hey, there's a few people watching right now. It's
I was going to say,
the middle of the night.
Thanks
really,
to you guys
really appreciate
with us. And
we'll be back in an hour to record another episode. So if you are, I don't know, like insomniacs or in a different country and you want to stay up for another hour and catch the next show, we'll be back in an hour to record the next one. Otherwise, you can hear it. You can watch it on YouTube. Go to YouTube, Just Mason Fantasy, or Just Mason FWFB, and subscribe. Really helps. That helps us out as well. Or you can catch it obviously in any podcast player. So that is going to wrap us up for this episode. For Dave and myself, thanks for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.